to give us some more insight into exactly what could be happening behind closed doors, we're joined by Moty Cristal, a professional negotiator and a founding member of the Coalition for Regional Security. Moty, it seems U.S. President Donald Trump is celebrating, but there are some major issues that still remain when we're talking about both sides agreeing to said deal. These are gaps. Do you think that these gaps can actually be fixed, though, as many of these teams are heading to Egypt right now?
Well, the basic answer is yes. President Trump is not only celebrating, President Trump is actually generating a very crucial dynamic towards closing or executing or implementing the framework which he offered. President Trump and his very talented negotiator Kushner and Witkoff, they actually presented a framework, and they knew while they announced it on the White House that this cannot be executed as it was presented, that it will require the detailed execution, detailed implementation negotiation. And this is actually what is happening or what is going to happen in the coming days. I think that the answer of Hamas, which was immediately embraced or framed as a yes by both President Trump, but also Egypt and Qatar, by doing this yes framing, they actually brought both Israel and Hamas into the final detailed negotiation, execution negotiations, adding to that the very important layer of cessation of the current attacks by Israel or the current hostilities by the IDF. The statements of the president, the pressure of the mediators, and the general yes provided by Netanyahu and the Hamas really allow this execution, the current state of negotiation, to be a little bit more immune from the external sabotage effort by the forces which never wanted a deal. So if you ask me, am I optimistic? Yes, I'm optimistic that there will be a release of prisoners, of release of hostages. And I'm very careful by saying release of hostages and not release of all the hostages, because I believe that these detailed execution negotiation could or might face significant hurdles, objective hurdles, either because Hamas don't know exactly where all the bodies are, the remains of the dead hostages are, but we will definitely see a dynamic towards release of hostages and prisoners in the coming days.
Moty, there is the question also of who is truly negotiating for the Hamas terror group, who has the real say, because if the Hamas leadership abroad wants this deal to happen, which the reports state that the leaders do, but the Hamas fighters inside Gaza don't want a ceasefire, who has the real say? Because it's the Hamas fighters inside Gaza that are holding the hostages.
That was always a huge challenge dealing with terror organization. Actually, the people who have the assets, the people who actually hold the hostages, are not necessarily binded by a decision made by people who are in the outside. In order to get over this challenge, there are several mechanisms. The first is political pressure imposed by the Qataris on the leadership. And by the end of the day, we have to remember that the commanders or the Hamas commanders who left in Gaza are not extremely senior, extremely charismatic. They might hold the live hostages or the bodies, but they don't have enough, I would say, resisting power to deal with the political pressure come from Qatar. The second layer is actually the forces that operate on the ground. These are Qataris, Egyptians, maybe Turkish intelligence officers or forces on the ground, which actually make the independent or completely independent decision-making by those who have the hostages a little bit less independent. So there are mechanism, there are dynamics which actually reduce the risk of those who have their hands on the hostages to refuse freedom.
Moty Cristal with some great insight into what's happening with these negotiating teams right now. Thank you so much for being with us on I-24 News this evening.
Thank you very much.